The Ministry of Finance and the Public Service presents Let's Talk Finance, a feature exploring the various elements of the economic program.
Welcome again to Let's Talk Finance here on Nationwide 90 FM. My name is George Davis. I continue that discussion about the budget. The budget in a way that everyone can understand the key inputs, what the government is seeking to achieve by its spending plans for the fiscal year. The man who's been discussing this issue with me, the acting principal director in the Fiscal Management Policy Unit in the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, Trevor Anderson. Trevor, we ended last week's program talking about appropriations, and you were making the point about the allocation to the share that has gone to the Ministry of National Security.
Yes. Good morning, George, and good morning again to your listeners. I'm just going to speak to the key elements of the estimates of expenditure in the 1920 budget. And I refer to the Ministry of National Security last time, and I'll just pick up from there. So in the 1920 budget, the estimates on the capital side will see the ministry getting 20.2 billion.
Yes.
And that is broadly to be allocated in terms of the purchase of equipment, the building of new barracks, the improvements in physical infrastructure for the police, renovation and building of new police stations. So that's 20.2 billion.
Yes.
In terms of infrastructure, and we're all seeing the roadworks taking place across the country, infrastructure will command $18 billion, $18.4 billion. And Mid-P accounts for 4.7 billion of that. The Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project, which will get into high gear during 1920, that will receive 8.4 billion. And of course, my pet subject, environmental and climate change, will get 1.2 billion in terms of purchase of equipment, for warning against, climate-related disasters. Yes.
You slipped one through on me just now, Trevor. You said Mid-P. You're talking, of course, a major infrastructure development project.
Yes.
There you go.
That will get 4.7 billion. So infrastructure broadly will get 18.4.
Yes.
So between Ministry of National Security and the infrastructure side of the budget, capital budget, that's $39 billion right there.
Yeah.
Of the 72.
Yeah.
So you can see that that's where the big bucks are. Importantly, in terms of pushing the growth agenda, agriculture, they will get $752 million to deal with major farm roads.
Yes.
We all know the problem of farmers trying to move their produce from the field to the distribution centers for it to be passed on to the markets.
Yes.
So farm roads will get significant attention in the 1920 budget. Irrigation equipment, 1.1 million.
Billion. 1.1
billion.
Billion, right. You said
the
million.
Essex.
There you go.
The Essex Valley irrigation will get 628 million.
Yes.
And that's the provision of irrigation equipment and infrastructure. And the agro competitiveness program, which is going to be driving the agro parks, they will receive 325.8 million. So the capital side of the budget, it accounts for 9% of the total budget, including debt servicing. Recurrent is 56.8%, and as I mentioned before, last week, 34.2%. So long term, and for us to be in a position where we can really put ourselves in a position to achieve the Vision 2030, debt servicing, that portion of the budget has to come down.
Yeah.
It has been coming down. It's on a sustainable decline. So as we go forward, things will get better.
Yes. There was a time I remember, I may have been in high school or it may have been university. I know I was a student then. It was said that, 80 cents out of every dollar earned by the government or collected by the government, went to debt servicing.
Yes.
Do you have a headline breakdown like that? What are we paying now? Is it 50 cents? Is it 30 cents? I'm sure we're nowhere near 80 now, though.
No, we're nowhere near 80. Those are
The bad old days.
The bad old days. We're at 34.2%.
Yes.
I can't give you it in terms of how much cents
Yes.
in the dollar.
Yes.
Perhaps another program I could give you that.
Well, if it's 34.2%, it's 34 cents because it's 100 cents is the dollar. So there you go. We've answered the question.
34 cents.
34 cents. There you go. Very well.
So
yeah. So
we've made progress.
So all right. So someone says, all right, but Mr. Anderson, the debt. You spoke about the debt just now.
Yes.
The targets I hear the government talking about week in, week out, about this as a percentage of that and the debt as a percentage of the GDP. Are those numbers going to come down based on the spending plans for this fiscal year 1920?
Absolutely. Each year, certainly since the consolidation program began in 2010 and took on even greater momentum in 2013 and afterwards, each year we have seen progressively a decline in the debt to GDP.
Yes.
And in fact, we are on track to exceed, in other words, to meet our 60% even before.
Yes.
Barring any unforeseen events, even before 25-26. So the fiscal policy paper, it details, it gives you a chart,
Yes,
which indicates where we ought to end up at.
Yes.
So we are on track.
Yeah, so the trajectory is marked.
Trajectory is marked, yes.
Yeah. So you said something about climate change resilience just now. So
Yes.
someone will say, well, Jamaica, where we are, we've been lucky from time to time with no hurricanes, no natural disasters. But is there anything in the overall budget, as tabled by the finance minister, to help us out in the event that we get a bad hurricane, a bad storm during that period between June and November?
All right. In the 1920 budget, and much like the earlier years, recent years, 18, 19, 17, 18, we would have allocated roughly $500 million.
Yes.
And those resources are meant to do activities prior to the onset of the hurricane season.
To build up resilience for when the
Yes.
season kicks in.
Cleaning of drains,
Yes.
gullies, those sort of activities. At a more catastrophic level, though, we have and continue to have insurance with the CRIF.
Yes.
It has been lambasted and
Yes, Trevor, I have my own beef with that. I wrote an
but
article about that because, but yeah.
At the end of the day, if we don't get the kind of hit that warrants a payout from CRIF, at the same time we need to be thankful for that.
Yes.
But outside of CRIF, the government has engaged the IDB. We have engaged them in terms of signing off on a contingent credit facility.
Yes.
Which would assist in the event of a disaster. And I'm speaking in terms of hurricane now, in terms of the aftermath response.
Yes.
So it is well recognized that the national budget doesn't have the space to respond
Yes.
in the aftermath of a disaster. However, this is why we are looking at the procurement of disaster risk financing instruments.
Yes.
And I should put in a plug here, George, that the government will be looking to introduce its disaster risk financing policy
Yes.
by the latter part of 2019. And in terms of, it's another subject matter, the development of the Fiscal Council,
Yes.
which should come on stream in the post-IMF
Period.
which comes on in somewhere between September and December 2019. So things are happening.
Yes.
And as we go forward, reduce the proportion or allocation and appropriation that goes towards debt service, more funds will be released
Yes.
to drive the human capital development, drive the further development of capital infrastructure, and of course, less reliance on borrowing.
Yeah. All right. So we've spoken about one G. Let's go to the other G, growth.
Yes.
You've touched on it in some respects, but someone listens again, Trevor, and says, but all right, so the PIOJ and the BOJ have been talking about the growth numbers quarter over quarter. So this budget, is there enough in the vital sectors? I heard the gentleman talk to George about agriculture, but is there enough in the vital sectors, enough cover then to give me confidence as the tax-paying Jamaican that the growth will continue and even build up steam from where it is now? Your answer to that would be what?
My answer to that is the 1920 budget supports and continues the whole business of supporting the growth agenda. We have had, George, and it's documented in the fiscal policy paper, we have had 15 consecutive quarters of positive growth.
Yes.
That speaks volumes. I mean, in the absence of any major weather event, we have seen agriculture hold its own.
Yes.
Efforts are being made to further drive the agricultural side. We know that there are still limitations and constraints, but there is room for continued buoyancy and improvement from the agricultural side.
Yes.
Which is why money is being allocated to deal with the farm roads, money is being allocated to deal with the irrigation side of the story. Now, of course, the budget in any 1 year is limited.
Yes.
And outside of debt servicing, you have a limited pie to work with.
Yes.
And so if we can firmly and finally get the crime under control, resources can be further reallocated to other areas.
Yes.
Because if we don't deal with the crime issue, it's going to be a drag on growth.
Yes.
Entrepreneurs won't have the confidence in terms of expanding.
Yes.
Opening up new shops, new branches. And so we have to get the crime thing under control.
Yeah.
Which is the focus of the 1920 budget, which continued from 1890.
Yeah. Speaking of entrepreneurship, that's where I was going to go next. Well, we're almost out of time, but just squeeze one in. I'm sure you'll say, from looking at the numbers in the budget, Trevor, that now is as good a time as any for people with ideas and a business plan to take the plunge and open a business. You'd say yes.
I would say yes. And in fact, the government has taken the initiative, George, I should quickly point this out, to provide a window through the Development Bank of Jamaica in terms of, what they call it, venture capital.
Yes.
And this is a source of flows which is not as costly as if you were to interface with the formal commercial financial center.
Yeah.
Yes. So it is well known and documented that there are ideas out there. There are business people who have ideas to expand, but the financing.
Yeah.
That has to be addressed.
Now is the time. All right. Trevor, thank you very much for speaking with us. That's it for Let's Talk Finance. We're leaving the building. That's it for this week. We'll be right on again next week.
That was Let's Talk Finance, brought to you by the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service.